Well, we are 1 week away from Election Day, and political news is dominating with superstars, in politics at least, touring the country.
In politics at least. The big names in politics at least are traveling to states with some of the closest races. Our CBS News Battleground Tracker has 5 Senate races as toss-ups. Could go either direction. They're in Pennsylvania, Nevada, Georgia, Arizona, and Wisconsin. CBS News senior White House and political correspondent Ed O'Keefe joins us now. Ed, you've been all over the place. You've been thinking about this a lot. President Biden and former President Barack Obama and Donald Trump, they're all going to be out there in Pennsylvania later this week. It's a stop that was not originally on President Obama's schedule, so that tells us something. How significant is it to have a sitting president and 2 former presidents all going to the same state in the final days of the race?
It means everything is about Pennsylvania. Both parties understand it. It's one of the big open seats that's been the most competitive this entire time. If Democrats can win it, it makes it that much harder for Republicans to snatch 1, 2 other seats to either keep it even or take control of the chamber because of the fact that they've essentially been trailing most of this cycle or keeping even, depending on which surveys you're reading, in Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada, which really are the other places where they think they might be able to win. It's no surprise that Democrats and Republicans are both focused on this state. Remember, it was one of the closest in 2020. They both know it's going to be the key to the White House in 2024 as well. So it's not only about getting Mehmet Oz or John Fetterman elected to the Senate. It's about early road testing of messaging and themes and approaches that could appeal to Pennsylvania voters going into the next presidential cycle.
Hey, Ed, President Biden is in Florida campaigning today. That's a state that our polling says is a likely win for Republicans. What do Democrats have to gain by the president focusing his energy there?
Well, remember, he has said throughout this cycle that he's going to do whatever he needs to do to help or to stay away from races if that's what helps. And in this case, he's been asked to come down there and to campaign and to help raise money. He made a commitment last week to raise about another $8 million for Democrats across the country in the closing days of the campaign. He, as the president, can do that in various ways, through text messaging, through phone calls that are made by the party, through the emails that go out and clog inboxes, but also by showing up for in-person fundraisers like the one he's doing today in South Florida. He's also holding a rally there in South Florida. Democrats believe that kind of attention, the kind of momentum it can draw could help, at least with early voting here in the next few days, because they understand if they can keep the margins closer in the competitive South Florida area, an area I know Tony knows well, then the margins overall across the state may not be, the gulf may not be as wide. But the reality is we've seen a lot of voters in that part of the state trending away from the Democratic Party. Today, at least, the Democratic Party of Florida believes by having the president come, that may dissuade some from switching sides or voting for the Republican candidates.
Yeah, South Florida, a place I'm from, a place I've recently been, and I would stay there, but we want to talk about Arizona in the limited time we have left. There's a toss-up there in a Senate election between Democrat Katie Hobbs and Republican Kari Lake. And there's a clip from Kari Lake at a campaign event talking about Paul Pelosi making a crack in the midst of answering a different question that people have been talking about. Let's listen to that, and then we'll react.
It is not impossible to protect our kids at school. They act like it is. Nancy Pelosi, well, she's got protection when she's in D.C. Apparently her house doesn't have a lot of protection. But
so, Ed, there's a lot to talk about in that clip. Not only the aside from Kari Lake, but I think the fact that it killed in the room. You could hear audible laughter. The interviewer was covering his mouth in laughter. What does that say about the state of our politics, and how could that and her more extreme views in general affect the race there in Arizona, help or hurt?
Well, good question on whether it helps or hurts, because that is such a close race, and it's one where, at this point, she probably needs to be drawing more from disaffected Democrats and independents in the state than from her Republican base, because if most of those people in the room are Republican, they're clearly with her. She knows what she's doing, but she also probably knows, having observed several days of online and on-air chatter in certain corners, that's fair game for right-leaning or Republican voters, that it's okay to be knocking the elderly spouse of the speaker who was assaulted in his own home. What does that say about our electorate? It says at least part of it thinks that's okay. Question is whether others don't think it's okay and whether they'll do something about it by either not voting for Kari Lake and not voting for other Republicans who who feel that way. But beyond that, I'm not quite sure with these closing days of the election, A, whether this changes anyone's mind on a specific campaign, and B, if we're going to see any cooling of the temperatures. Because if we had, guys, then this would have all ended after Gabby Giffords got shot back in 2011, or would have ended after Steve Scalise was shot at a congressional baseball game a few years ago here in the D.C. suburbs.
Yeah,
it didn't. So this is only the continuation of something that's been ongoing now for more than 10 years, and it's just getting that much more dangerous and urgent.
Yeah. Our own star at O'Keefe.
On that note.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
like,
no, I mean, well said.
Yeah,
well said.
Yeah. That nothing has cooled that, and it doesn't look like there's anything on the
Wherever
horizon
we go,
either.
there we are.
All right, Ed, thanks.
Take care.